Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Soap Goes to the Oscars. This is episode 87. I'm recording on May 17th, 2025. And I watched the movie on May 16th. This one was called Test Pilot. And I had to get this one on DVD when I had originally looked stuff up. It said, I think that it was on Amazon, but when I looked for it, when the time came, it was not available anywhere. So I got it on DVD from Amazon for $16.05, which is a shame. That brings my average to $4.18. I think all the rest of them, though, are available. A couple of them on the Internet Archive, and then a couple of others on YouTube or other sites. So that should be it for the rest of this round. So Test Pilot is a 1938 American drama film directed by Victor Fleming, starring Clark Gable, Myrna Loy, and Spencer Tracy, and featuring Lionel Barrymore. The Oscar-nominated film tells the story of a daredevil test pilot, Gable, his wife, Loy, and his best friend, Tracy. Test Pilot was written by Howard Hawks, Vincent Lawrence, John Lee Maheen, Frank Weed, and Waldemar Young. Screenplay was largely based on an original story by former naval aviator Weed. Produced by Louis D. Layton. Cinematography, Ray June. Edited by Tom Held. Music by Franz Waxman. Produced by MGM. Distributed by Lowe's. And it was released in April 1938 on the 15th in New York and LA, and then the 22nd for the rest of the US. The runtime, this says, Wikipedia says 118. I think it was actually, everything else says 119, right, which I think is more accurate. When I was watching it, I thought it was, for some reason, I thought it was an hour and like 45 minutes, and then it kept going. I was like, what's happening here? But I was just wrong. Test Pilot brought together three of the most bankable Hollywood stars of the period, but while Loy and Gable became friends, an uneasy relationship existed between Tracy and Gable. At the climax of a lengthy take where he was cradling his comrade's head in his arms, Gable was reported to have said, "Die, goddammit, Spence, I wish to Christ you would," and dropped Tracy's head with a thud. Principal photography took place from December 1st, 1937 to February 18th, 1938 in MGM Studios and on location in Van Nuys, California, Lindbergh Field, Marchfield, California, and at the Cleveland National Air Races, with retakes on March 30th to April 1938. Test Pilot utilized authentic United States Army Air Corps airfield settings and was able to obtain rights to film using Boeing's new Y-1B-17, which was destined to become the progenitor of the wartime B-17 bomber series. The Drake Bullet was actually the SEV S-2 and R-70Y, a modified civilian racer version of the U.S. Army Air Corps P-35. The other test aircraft that has flown to its top diving speed is a Northrop A-17 attack bomber. Renowned movie stunt pilot Paul Mantz served as the second unit director in charge of the flying sequences, although uncredited real-life test pilot Sammy Roth did the flying sequences. Today, it is considered a significant aviation film by historians due to the use of contemporary aircraft. Even at the time of its release, Variety noted that the story bespeaks authority and detail, obviously explained by the fact that Captain Frank Weed, who authored the original, has had a practical aviation background. Both Loy and Tracy, despite his obvious scene-stealing battles with Gable, later claimed Test Pilot was their favorite film. Test Pilot was nominated for Best Picture, while Weed was nominated for Best Story and Tom Held for Best Film Editing. And also in the credits, the opening credits, I noticed they had a couple of special effects credits. I don't know their names offhand. I should look them up. Arnold Gillespie and Donald Jarharus for special effects and special effects assistant, respectively. There was also a montage effects person. I don't seem to see that as a credit. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, there was a scene where like she was having a dream and there was a montage of cuts together. I'm assuming that's where it was. But at the beginning of the movie, too, it said they had a couple of disclaimers basically saying that, you know how they always say any similarity to persons living or dead is coincidental. Well, they were basically saying that anything, and I'm sure the army made them do this, but anything, in regards to the planes failing in any way, did not reflect on the army or on the military or the civilian uh, planes at the time. So this was pretty good. Gable and Tracy were pretty good together. Loy is sort of like that. She was in The Thin Man, and she's in a couple other ones I've watched. She's kind of like, to me, sort of the quintessential sort of 30s actress where, she's got the voice. She's very quippy and fast talking, and especially when she's in The Thin Man with William Powell. And the other thing that surprises me every time is, I think before watching these movies, I'd never seen any of these actors in anything. But the image I have of Clark Gable is from Gone with the Wind, which will be in next year's Oscars, the winner. Not from having seen the movie, but from just clips of it and stuff. And he always seemed very like stuffy and, harsh to me from my memory of the clips. But he always surprises me. Like, I think the first movie I watched him in was It Happened One Night. He might have been something as a smaller role before that, but It Happened One Night, I was surprised by like how funny and charismatic and energetic he was. And he's very much the same in this. Spencer and him were in another movie I watched called San Francisco from a few Oscars back. And I did not like the movie, but they were both very good. And Spencer Tracy's always very like, he's always sort of like a calming figure in every movie. And a couple in San Francisco and another movie that Boys Town from this year. Was that from this year? Yeah, he's in 2 movies this year. He was a priest in San Francisco and Boys Town. And in this, he's like a mechanic / pilot, and they're friends and stuff, but he's sort of the calming force between these Loy and Gable, who are sort of fly off the handle, like not angry, but this is one of the ones where they meet and instantly fall in love and get married. And then Gable realizes he's kind of made a mistake. And, I knew from the beginning, it's called Test Pilot. And at the beginning, I thought they were both test pilots, and it's really more Gable. But I was like, one of these guys is definitely going to die. And I was right. I won't, I might have spoiled it a bit by reading the Wikipedia, and there's another moment where another test pilot dies, and Gable gives his widow half the winnings, which he was supposed to be $10,000. He gives her 5, and the 10,000 was supposed to be for him and Loy to start their new life as husband and wife. But then he kind of goes off gambling and drinking and loses most of the money, and flying too. But it sort of goes downhill a bit from there, and then it has its ups and downs throughout. But they're all great. All 3 of them are great actors and actresses. So yeah, they're all amazing actors. So this was a good team up. And they advertise a lot, like on the DVD box and everything, about Lionel Barrymore. I expected him to have a smaller part. He actually had a pretty significant part. He was the guy that ran the company that built the planes that they were testing. So he was in it quite a bit. Yeah, I don't know. Not a whole lot to say, but other than it was a great movie. And I don't know. Yeah, I've liked a lot this time. Alexander's Ragtime Band, Boys Town, 4 Daughters was very good. Jezebel was good. I think I've liked pretty much all of these. I'd have to go back and look at my reviews of them, but I gave this one 3.5. Not perfect. Going back to the special effects, what I was going to say is that, it was interesting because that's the first time I've noticed a special effects credit. There's probably been others, but that's the first time I've really noticed. A lot of times with these movies, all the credits are at the beginning, and I sometimes skip them. But I noticed it, and then as I was watching at the beginning, I was like, "Oh, these are some pretty bad special effects even for 1938. But then later there was some actually very good special effects. It's mostly stuff with the planes crashing. The crashing stuff was pretty good, probably because they did it with, I'm assuming, with models, but I don't know for sure. The flying stuff was a little, probably harder for them to do. Pretty impressive still for 1938, considering. So that was something that stood out to me. But yeah, that's probably all I've got for this one. I liked it. It's getting hard to rank them now because partly because it had been a while since I watched. It was like a month between watching movies. I watched Four Daughters on April 10th, and I watched Jezebel on May 10th. So, and now I've watched three movies, so those ones are fresh in my mind. Whereas the other ones, I remember that I liked them, but I don't remember every detail necessarily. So, I started this round on March 28th. So it's been a month and a half. But I've got three more movies: The Citadel, The Grand Illusion, and The Winner. You Can't Take It With You. So I'm hoping, and like I said, those are all available free. There shouldn't be anything to hinder me other than time. So I'm hoping that I get to them pretty soon. But that said, I'll see you next time.